The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the hardwood floor of my Boston apartment, the screen glowing with a mistake I couldn't undo. My heart stopped as I stared at the sent message, a photo meant for nobody, a private moment of confidence, now staring back at me in the chat with Sarah, my best friend, the straight girl who'd never see me that way. 3 seconds passed, each one a lifetime, before I lunged for the phone, praying she hadn't seen it yet. I'm Ellie Harper, 28, a graphic designer with a knack for overthinking and a heart that's been quietly in love with Sarah Nguyen for 3 years. Sarah, 30, is a freelance photographer, all sharp edges and warm smiles, with a laugh that could make a rainy day feel like summer. We met at a local art gallery during a showcase, bonding over a shared love for bold colors and quiet moments. She's straighter, so she's always said, and I've spent years burying my feelings, content to be her confidant, her late-night phone call, her safe place. Until tonight, when a single misclick threatened to unravel everything. It was 10 p.m., and I'd been sipping wine, feeling bold after a long day of client revisions. I'd taken the photo in a moment of rare self-assurance, standing in front of my bedroom mirror, the soft light catching my curves. It wasn't meant for anyone, just a fleeting act of self-love. But when I went to send Sarah a meme about our favorite show, my clumsy fingers betrayed me, and the photo went instead. Now the delivered notification mocked me, and my pulse raced like I'd sprinted a marathon. I typed frantically, "OMG, ignore that. Wrong file." But before I could hit send, my phone buzzed. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. A call. My stomach dropped. She'd seen it. I let it ring twice, my hands shaking, before I answered, my voice barely a whisper. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." "Ellie," she interrupted, her voice low, unreadable. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications I couldn't decipher. Tell her what? That I'd accidentally sent her a nude? Or something else? My mind spiraled, replaying every moment we'd spent together, late-night coffee runs, her head on my shoulder during movie marathons, the way her eyes lingered sometimes, or so I'd hoped. Was she angry? Disgusted? Or, God forbid, curious? "I didn't mean to send it," I stammered, pacing my tiny apartment, the city lights flickering outside my window. "It was an accident, I swear. Can we just forget this happened?" There was a pause long enough to make my chest ache. Then she said, "Meet me at the pier." 30 minutes. She hung up before I could respond. The pier. Our pier. A quiet stretch of boardwalk in South Boston where we'd spent countless evenings, sharing dreams and secrets under the stars. It was our sanctuary, but now it felt like a courtroom. I grabbed my coat, my mind a tangle of fear and hope, and headed out into the chilly October night. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of salt and seaweed as I reached the pier. Sarah was already there, leaning against the railing, her leather jacket catching the moonlight. Her short black hair was tousled by the wind, and her expression was unreadable, a mix of intensity and something softer I couldn't place. My heart pounded as I approached, my sneakers scuffing against the weathered wood. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," I started, my voice trembling. "I didn't mean to make things weird. It was a stupid mistake." She turned to face me, her brown eyes searching mine. "Ellie, it's not about the photo." Her voice was steady but laced with something raw. "It's about why you're so scared right now. Why you've been scared for years." My breath caught. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her familiar cedarwood perfume. "I've known you forever," she said softly. "You think I haven't noticed the way you look at me? The way you pull back when I get too close?" I froze, my heart exposed like a raw nerve. She'd seen it. All of it. The love I'd buried, the longing I'd hidden behind jokes and friendship. "Sarah, you're straight," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I didn't want to ruin what we have." She laughed, a soft, bittersweet sound. "Straight? Yeah, that's what I told myself too." She looked out at the water, her jaw tight. "But then you sent that photo and I couldn't stop thinking about you. Not just tonight. For a while now." My world tilted. Was she saying what I thought she was saying? I wanted to ask, to demand clarity, but fear held me back. Instead, I stood there, the waves crashing below us, waiting for her to break the silence. "I'm not saying I have it all figured out," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not running from this either. I don't want to pretend anymore." She reached for my hand, her fingers brushing mine, tentative but warm. My heart leapt, but doubt crept in. Was this real? Or was it pity, confusion? A fleeting moment she'd regret by morning? I pulled back slightly, searching her face. Sarah, what does this mean? She didn't answer with words. Instead, she stepped closer, her hand cupping my cheek, her thumb brushing my skin. The world narrowed to the warmth of her touch, the intensity in her eyes. It means I'm here, she said. And I'm not going anywhere. The pier seemed to fade, the stars above blurring as my emotions crashed like the waves. I wanted to believe her, to lean into this moment, but the weight of years spent hiding held me back. What if this was a mistake? What if I lost her forever? As her hand lingered, I knew one thing. There was no going back. Not after tonight. Not after this. The next morning I woke to the soft hum of my phone vibrating on the nightstand, my heart still racing from the night before. Sarah's words, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, echoed in my mind, both a lifeline and a question mark. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of my Boston apartment, wondering if I'd dreamed it all. Her text was simple. Coffee at the Beanery? 10 a.m. No mention of the pier, the photo, or the way her hand had felt against my cheek. I typed a quick sure and spent the next hour agonizing over what to wear, settling on a green sweater that Sarah once said brought out my eyes. Every choice felt loaded, every moment a step into uncharted territory. The Beanery was our usual spot, a cozy cafe in the South End with exposed brick walls and the smell of fresh espresso. Sarah was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with 2 steaming mugs. She looked effortlessly cool in her leather jacket, her camera bag slung over the chair. But her eyes were different today, less guarded, more searching. It made my stomach flip. Hey, I said, sliding into the seat across from her, my voice betraying my nerves. Hey, she replied, pushing a mug toward me. Your usual. Extra foam. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of last night hanging between us. I sipped my coffee, burning my tongue, and finally blurted, So about the pier? Sarah's lips twitched into a half-smile. Yeah, about that. She leaned forward, her elbows on the table. I meant what I said, Ellie. I've been thinking about you, about us, for longer than I wanted to admit. That photo just forced me to stop lying to myself. I stared at her, my heart a drumbeat in my chest. But you've always been straight. You dated guys. You never said anything about. I trailed off, unable to say the words. About liking women? She finished, her voice steady. I didn't know how to. I grew up in a family where straight was the only option. My parents, my church, they made it clear what was acceptable. But you. She paused, her eyes softening. You made me question everything. Her words hit like a tidal wave, washing away years of doubt. But fear lingered. What if this is just a phase for you? I asked, my voice small. What if you wake up tomorrow and realize this isn't what you want? Sarah reached across the table, her hand covering mine. I can't promise I have all the answers, but I know I've never felt this way about anyone else. Not the guys I dated, not anyone. Just you. The cafe seemed to fade, the clatter of dishes and chatter of patrons drowned out by the sincerity in her voice. I wanted to believe her, to let myself fall, but the risk felt enormous. Sarah was my best friend, my anchor. If this went wrong, I'd lose more than a crush, I'd lose her. Let's take it slow, I said finally, my thumb brushing against her hand. I don't want to mess this up. She nodded, her smile soft but certain. Slow works. The next few weeks were a blur of tentative steps and quiet revelations. We didn't label anything, didn't rush into grand gestures. Instead, we let moments build, her brushing a strand of hair from my face during a hike, me stealing a bite of her ice cream at the pier, our hands lingering longer each time they touched. But beneath the sweetness, tension simmered. My insecurities whispered that this was too good to be true, while Sarah wrestled with her own doubts, her family's expectations looming like a shadow. One evening, we were at my apartment, sprawled on the couch with a half-empty pizza box between us. Sarah was flipping through her camera, showing me shots from her latest projecta series on Boston's hidden corners. Her passion lit up her face and I couldn't stop staring. When she caught me, she grinned. What? You're beautiful, I said before I could stop myself. Her cheeks flushed and she set the camera down. You're not so bad yourself, Harper. She leaned closer, her breath warm against my skin, and for a moment I thought she might kiss me. But then her phone buzzed, shattering the moment. She glanced at the screen, her expression darkening. "It's my mom," she said, standing abruptly. "I should take this." I nodded, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach as she stepped onto my balcony to talk. I couldn't hear much, but her tone was sharp, defensive. When she came back inside, her shoulders were tense, her eyes distant. "Everything okay?" I asked, keeping my voice light. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "She wants me to come to dinner this weekend. With a nice guy she knows." She air-quoted the words, her voice dripping with frustration. "She doesn't get it. She never will." My heart sank. Sarah's family was traditional, rooted in values that left little room for deviation. I'd always known this, but hearing it now when we were teetering on the edge of something real, made it feel like a wall between us. "Do you want to tell her?" I asked cautiously. "About us?" Sarah looked at me, her eyes conflicted. "I don't know if I'm ready. It's not just her, it's my whole family. They'll lose it." She paused, then added, "But I don't want to hide you, Ellie. I just need time." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Take all the time you need." But as she left that night, her goodbye kiss lingering on my cheek, I couldn't shake the feeling that time might not be on our side. The tension grew as autumn deepened, the Boston air turning sharp and the leaves painting the city in fiery hues. Sarah and I were caught in a delicate dance, our connection deepening but fragile, like a thread stretched too tight. Every touch, every glance felt electric, but the unspoken question of her family loomed larger with each passing day. One Saturday we drove to Cape Cod for a day trip, a chance to escape the city and our uncertainties. The beach was quiet, the November chill keeping tourists away. We walked along the shore, our boots sinking into the sand, her hand warm in mine. For a moment it felt like we could outrun the world, her family, my fears, the weight of what we were becoming. "You ever think about running away?" Sarah asked, her voice half serious as she tossed a pebble into the waves. "Just you and me, somewhere nobody knows us." I laughed, but it caught in my throat. "All the time. But then I remember I'm terrible at packing." She grinned, pulling me closer. "I'd pack for you. Just don't expect me to fold your clothes." We kissed then, our first real kiss, soft and tentative under the gray sky. Her lips were warm, tasting faintly of salt and peppermint, and for those few seconds nothing else mattered. But when we pulled apart, her eyes were clouded with something I couldn't read. "My mom called again," she said, her voice low. "She's pushing the dinner thing. Keeps talking about this guy, some family friend's son. She thinks he's perfect for me." My stomach twisted, but I kept my tone light. "And what did you say?" I told her I'm not interested. She looked at me, her expression fierce. "I told her I'm seeing someone. Didn't say who, but it's a start." My heart leapt, but fear followed close behind. How'd she take it? Sarah's laugh was bitter. "She didn't. Just changed the subject. But I know she's not going to let it go." We walked in silence after that, the weight of her words settling between us. I wanted to be her courage, her safe place, but I couldn't shake the fear that her family's disapproval would pull her away. I'd seen it happen before, friends whose relationships crumbled under the pressure of tradition, expectation, rejection. I couldn't lose her, not when we were so close to something real. Back in Boston, the tension followed us. Sarah started pulling away, not in big ways but in small ones. She'd cancel plans last minute, citing work or family obligations. Her texts grew shorter, her smiles tighter. I tried to give her space, to trust she'd come back, but doubt gnawed at me. Was she rethinking us? Was the photo, the pier, the kiss all a mistake? One night I couldn't take it anymore. I showed up at her apartment in Fenway, my heart in my throat. She opened the door, looking exhausted, her camera still in hand from a late shoot. "Ellie? It's midnight." "I know," I said, stepping inside. "But we need to talk." "You're shutting me out, Sarah, and I don't know why." She sighed, setting her camera down. "It's not you. It's everything. My mom's been relentless. She found out I'm not dating that guy, and now she's asking questions. She saw us together on my Instagram, a stupid selfie from the pier. She's not stupid, Ellie. She's starting to figure it out." My heart sank. "And what does that mean for us?" She looked at me, her eyes raw with emotion. It means I'm scared. I love you, Ellie, I do. But my family. They're my world too. I don't know how to do this without losing them. Her words hit like a punch. She loved me. She loved me. But the joy of hearing it was drowned by the fear in her voice. I stepped closer, taking her hands. You don't have to choose right now. We'll figure it out together. She nodded, but her eyes were distant, and when she kissed me it felt like a goodbye. The next week was a blur of silence. Sarah didn't call, didn't text. I threw myself into work, designing logos until my eyes burned, but nothing could drown out the ache. I kept replaying her words, her kiss, the way she'd looked at me like I was both her salvation and her undoing. Then one evening my phone lit up with her name. My hands shook as I answered. Sarah. Ellie, she said, her voice trembling. I told them. My parents. About us. My heart stopped. What happened? They didn't take it well. Her voice broke and I could hear her fighting tears. They want me to come home to fix this. But I told them I'm not changing who I am. Not for them. Not for anyone. I was speechless, pride and fear warring inside me. Where are you? I asked finally. At the pier, she said. Can you come? I was out the door before she finished the sentence, my heart racing as I drove through the city, the lights blurring past. Whatever happened next, we'd face it together. The pier was bathed in moonlight when I arrived, the air sharp with the promise of winter. Sarah stood at the railing, her silhouette framed against the shimmering water, her leather jacket pulled tight against the cold. My heart ached at the sight of her, strong, vulnerable, and so impossibly hers. Sarah, I called softly, my voice barely carrying over the waves. She turned, her eyes red-rimmed but fierce. You came, she said, her voice cracking with relief. Of course I did. I closed the distance between us, stopping just short of touching her. What happened? Tell me everything. She took a shaky breath, leaning against the railing. I went to dinner at my parents' place in Dorchester. I couldn't keep lying. So I told them about you, about us. I said I'm in love with you, Ellie, and I'm not ashamed of it. My breath caught. She'd said it to them out loud in a house where love like ours wasn't welcome. And her laugh was hollow. My mom cried. My dad. He just sat there silent. Then he told me I was confused, that I needed to fix myself. They think it's a phase, that I'm throwing away my future. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. But it's not a phase, Ellie. You're not a phase. I reached for her hand, my fingers intertwining with hers. You're not alone in this, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. We'll face it together, whatever they throw at you. She nodded, but her grip tightened, like she was holding on for dear life. They want me to stop seeing you. They said if I don't, I'm not welcome at home anymore. The words hit like a physical blow. I'd known her family was traditional, but this cutting her off was a cruelty I hadn't expected. Sarah, I'm so sorry, I whispered, pulling her into my arms. She buried her face in my shoulder, her body trembling, and I held her as the waves crashed below, each one a reminder of how fragile this moment was. We stayed like that for a long time, the cold biting at our skin but neither of us caring. Finally she pulled back, her eyes searching mine. I don't know what to do, Ellie. I love them, but I love you too. How do I choose? You don't have to choose, I said fiercely. They're your family. They'll come around or they won't, but you don't have to give up who you are to make them happy. She looked at me, her expression torn between hope and despair. What if they never accept me? Then you'll still have me, I said, my voice breaking. And we'll build our own family, our own life. Her lips trembled and she kissed me then, fierce and desperate, like she was pouring all her fear and love into that one moment. I kissed her back, my hands tangled in her hair. The world falling away until it was just us. Two women fighting for a love the world didn't always understand. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotion. Sarah moved into my apartment, her lease ending just as her family's ultimatum sank in. We didn't talk about it much, her parents' silence, the ache of their rejection, but it was there, a shadow in her eyes. I did my best to be her light, cooking her favorite meals, playing her favorite songs, reminding her she was enough. But the world outside our bubble wasn't kind. At a gallery event where Sarah was showcasing her photos, whispers followed askerious glances, raised eyebrows. Boston was progressive but not everywhere and not for everyone. When Sarah introduced me as her girlfriend to a colleague, the man's smile tightened, his eyes flicking away. Sarah's hand tightened in mine, her defiance a quiet fire. Later, as we walked home through the public garden, she stopped under a street lamp, her breath visible in the cold. "I'm not ashamed of you," she said suddenly, her voice fierce. "I need you to know that." "I know," I said, pulling her close. "And I'm not going anywhere." But doubt lingered. Sarah was still grappling with her identity, her family's rejection cutting deeper than she'd admit. I saw it in the way she'd stare at her phone, waiting for a call that never came. I wanted to fix it, to make the world softer for her. But all I could do was love her through it. One night, as we lay in bed, her head on my chest, she whispered, "I'm scared I'm not enough for you. That I'll mess this up." I tilted her chin up, meeting her eyes. "You're more than enough. You're everything." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And as I held her, I couldn't shake the fear that love, no matter how fierce, might not be enough to heal the wounds she carried. Winter settled over Boston, blanketing the city in snow and silence. Sarah and I built a fragile routine in my apartment, our days filled with small acts of love, her brewing coffee each morning, me leaving notes on her camera bag. But beneath it, the weight of her family's rejection lingered, a wound that refused to heal. One evening, as we decorated a tiny Christmas tree in my living room, Sarah's phone buzzed. She froze, her hand mid-ornament, and glanced at the screen. "It's my sister," she said, her voice tight. I nodded, giving her space as she answered. Her sister, Lynn, was the one person in her family who hadn't shut her out completely. I listened from the kitchen, catching fragments of their conversation, Sarah's voice low, defensive, then softening. When she hung up, she looked at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "She wants to meet," Sarah said. "Just her. No parents. She says she misses me." Hope flickered in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "That's good, right? It's a start." Sarah nodded, but her expression was guarded. "Maybe. I don't know if I can handle another rejection." The meeting was set for a cafe in Cambridge, a neutral space. I offered to go with her, but Sarah wanted to do it alone. "I need to face this," she said, kissing me softly before she left. I spent the day pacing, my phone silent, my mind racing with what-ifs. When she came home, her face was unreadable. She dropped her bag and pulled me into a hug, holding me so tightly I could feel her heartbeat. "She didn't hate me," she whispered. "She doesn't understand, but she didn't hate me." I pulled back, searching her face. "What did she say?" "She's confused," Sarah admitted, sitting on the couch. "But she listened. She said she wants to meet you. Properly. Not just as my friend." My heart leapt, but I saw the fear in her eyes. "And your parents?" Sarah shook her head. "Lynn says they're still angry, but she thinks they'll come around. Eventually." It wasn't perfect, but it was hopey, a crack in the wall that had separated Sarah from her family. We celebrated that night with cheap wine and a dance party in our socks, the Christmas lights casting a warm glow over us. For the first time in weeks, Sarah's laugh was free, unburdened. Spring brought change. Sarah's photography career took off, her work featured in a local magazine. I watched her shine at the launch party, her confidence a quiet rebellion against the world that tried to dim her. When she introduced me as her partner, her voice steady and proud, I felt like I could breathe again. But the real turning point came in April, during a quiet dinner at our favorite pierside restaurant. Sarah's phone lit up with a text from her mother, a simple message, asking her to come to Sunday dinner. No mention of fixing her, no ultimatums. Just an invitation. Sarah stared at the screen, her hands trembling. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. I took her hand, my heart full. "You go. And if you want, I'll be there too." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I want you there. I want them to see us, really see us." The dinner was tense, the air thick with unspoken words. Sarah's parents were polite but distant, their smiles strained. But Lynn was there, her warmth a bridge between us. When Sarah reached for my hand under the table, her mother's eyes flickered to our joined fingers, and for a moment, I thought I saw something soften in her expression. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. As we left, Sarah's father pulled her aside, his voice low. I couldn't hear what he said, but when Sarah came back to me, her eyes were bright with hope. He said he's trying, she whispered. He's trying to understand. We walked back to the pier that night, the place where it all began. The stars were out, the water calm, and Sarah's hand was warm in mine. I don't know what happens next, she said, her voice steady. But I know I love you, Ellie. And I'm not afraid anymore. I smiled, pulling her close. I love you too. And whatever comes, we'll face it together. The journey wasn't over. There would be more conversations, more battles, more moments of doubt. But standing there with Sarah's arms around me and the future stretching out like the ocean before us, I knew we'd already won something precious. The courage to love, openly and unapologetically, in a world that didn't always make it easy. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.